Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll add my thanks to you and the ranking member for this hearing and for your work on the Cures Act. To Drs. Collins and Gottlieb, thank you so much for being here. And would you please, along with us thanking the two of you for your service and leadership, please thank the women and men who work with you every day in your agencies for the extraordinary work they do on behalf of the people of the United States. Dr. Gottlieb, I wanted to start with a question or two for you. We have discussed the devastating impact the opioid epidemic is having in New Hampshire and all across the country. One of the tools in combating the epidemic is medication-assisted treatment like buprenorphine. It plays an important role in recovery, along with access to other services and supports. And we also, both of you, I think, mentioned in your opening comments the possibility that we will develop non-addictive pain products, which would help prevent addiction when, for example, somebody gets in an accident and is prescribed an opioid and then becomes addicted. The 21st Century Cures Act took some important steps on patient-focused drug development, including requiring guidance on patient experience data. So, Dr. Gottlieb, can you discuss how patient-focused drug development initiatives could be used in relation to developing new medication-assisted treatment and the development of new non-addictive pain treatments?
I appreciate the question. The bottom line is they can be a very important tool, and I think the provisions that are in the Cures Act are going to help inform how we go about thinking of the parameters that we use to encourage the development of products, both kinds of products, both non-addictive alternatives to some of the opioid products, but in particular, medication that can assist people to live lives of sobriety. We have committed to develop new guidance documents for outlining the pathway for the development of medically assisted therapy. We want to create incentives for sponsors to come in and try to develop those products, and part of that is making sure we have very clear guidelines. And as part of that, we're going to be looking at alternative endpoints that we haven't looked at in the past. So, for example, issues like craving. We know craving is a factor that leads people to continue to use opioids, and if that can be an endpoint in the trials that we use to assess new products, it might provide a more efficient pathway. And that certainly is informed by the work we do with patients and looking at patient-informed endpoints.
Thank you. And Dr. Collins, I wanted to talk to you, too, about you made a comment in a response, I think, to Senator Alexander about the impact of the other transaction authority that you now have. And can you comment a little bit about how that could be helpful in the opioid space? You said it would be, but how specifically would OTA be useful to the NIH and its work in doing opioid disorder research?
So the plan that we have put in place, which is going to be fleshed out in more detail next week in an intense two-day meeting, will involve a lot of rapid action, both to come up with new ways to treat addiction, because we need more options, to treat overdoses that don't respond as well as they might to fentanyl, and to develop these new non-addictive pain medicines that everybody agrees. That's going to require partnerships between academic institutions that have the appropriate science skills with industry that may have formulation capabilities or drug development pathways. If we have to build that on the process of issuing grants and contracts and the traditional way, it's going to take a long time. Other transaction authority allows us to do something in maybe 6 weeks that might have otherwise taken 9 months. Yeah. We've learned how to use this effectively and responsibly for the All of Us program, for the Common Fund, and we think this would be a great place for it to be available. We will be careful about how to use it, but it could help us a lot.
Well, thank you. And finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about our new generation of scientific researchers, because both Senators Baldwin and Warren were talking about that. Cures took important steps for the next generation of researchers by helping to make it more affordable for prospective students to pursue their graduate degrees in science and engineering. NIH has been responsive to these efforts and in September announced a new policy for implementing special funding consideration for these graduate students. In recent weeks, I've heard from a number of graduate students, Dr. Collins, who are fearful of how the Republican tax legislation, particularly the House version of it, could impact their ability to pay back their student debts and whether it could even force them to drop out of their programs. One particular provision is in the House bill would require that graduate waived tuition is taxed with their stipends, a change that I've heard from PhD candidates could really impact. One wrote, "This would triple my taxable income and increase my yearly taxes by more than $10,000. It would force me to drop out of school because I wouldn't be able to afford rent and groceries while earning below the poverty line." So can you comment, Dr. Collins, on what you think this provision would mean for the future of our young researchers in biomedical research?
Well, very quickly, because of the time, these are our future, the graduate students that are learning to be the next generation of leaders in science across very many disciplines, but certainly I think of life sciences needing those individuals to be the ones who are going to make the next breakthroughs. Anything that happens to discourage the best and brightest from taking that track or to feel that they can't afford to do so is something we should approach with great concern.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.